Hey, welcome back to the channel, my fellow weather junkies. I'm your host, Greg Majeski, your personal weatherman, bringing you weather without all that social media hype here on your Thursday, September 12th, 2024. Let's go ahead and take a look at those weather headlines here for today as we're going to be tracking the Francine remnants. It's now a depression. We'll see what its impacts will be lingering for today as we're kind of in a severe weather mode, and unfortunately, flooding may be a part of that story. We'll talk about that in greater detail. We'll talk about Gordon coming soon out in the Atlantic, and although I'm not expecting it to have an impact on the continental United States, it could have a say on what the global weather pattern may change to. I'll explain in greater detail here in a second. And then we're also going to take a look at this upcoming weekend. We'll see how the weekend's looking across the continental United States. Now, before we get into this report, I first want to say thank you to all the new subscribers to the channel. We're growing, moving in the right direction. And if you haven't considered subscribing, please consider it. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you're alerted on future content, and give me a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below. It does help with the YouTube algorithm. Again, I do appreciate your support in supporting this channel. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at your satellite imagery here for this morning. Here's what's left over of Francine here across the southeast, dumping some pretty heavy rains here across portions of Jackson. Got some thunderstorms here along the Gulf Coast as well. I'll show you those here in just a second. Also got a storm system up here in the high plains, looking at some active severe weather potentially up here as well into portions of Montana, and getting some rains down toward Jackson Hole this morning. But the southwest looking quiet, northeast looking quiet here for this morning. Let's look at the current surface map. Again, we got the remnants of what is Francine here across the southeast, and it's running out of steam going inland, and it's going to linger across the southeast, unfortunately. And when you take a tropical system and you start to stall it, then you're starting to talk about some potential flooding here issues across the southeast. It's a nice cold front here in the west, bringing some nice change here. Definitely has cooled things down from what they were last weekend. We were dealing with excessive heat across the northwest portions of the country, and not too bad. A few little showers there across portions of New England here for this morning. Again, we've got numerous flash flood watches here across the south. We got tornado watches up here as well. We had a couple of tornado warnings earlier this morning with some water spouts here along the beaches of Florida. Dry conditions out here, a little breezy out ahead of that next system. And yeah, look at that. We got some winter weather to talk about here across the higher elevations of Montana as well. So we're starting to see that seasonal change starting to come our way here a little at a time. All right, let's talk about the Gulf Coast here. We got some pretty good heavy rains here coming in between Destin and Panama City, coming into Bay County here. Some pretty good rains. We had a couple of tornado warnings here earlier this morning near the Destin area with a couple of water spouts. Nothing out there currently, but going to be a deluge all day today along the Gulf Coast area, especially across Panama City areas in Alabama. Georgia also be looking at some pretty significant rains here from today, from the remnants of the moisture being drawn up from what was Hurricane Francine, which did make landfall, by the way, as a Category 2 hurricane, strengthened right before landfall just a little bit. Let's take a look at a live look here at Panama City Beach. That's our weather city of the day. Definitely still looking at some angry surf out there. Definitely not a good time to go to the beach, and it's going to be wet, rainy, and stormy all day today. In fact, the forecast calling for showers and thunderstorms, likely high temperature this afternoon of 85 degrees. And hey, if you'd like to nominate your city as the weather city of the day, and you've got a webcam in your area, and perhaps on YouTube or some other source, just go ahead and copy that link, stick it down below in the comment section, and we'll consider it here for a future broadcast. All right, we're going to go ahead and shift gears and talk about the severe weather outlook here, as again, we're talking about the changes. We've had some severe weather here across the southeast, thus the day one outlook here from the Storms Prediction Center, as we are expecting some active weather out here across, obviously, the southeast, and then also looking at areas there up toward Montana as well. So you got that severe weather risk here for Alabama. That's going to include parts of Montgomery, going in toward Birmingham, Panama City, Tallahassee, areas like that. And then, of course, we've got another little pocket up here across areas of Montana and heading into parts of the Dakotas and a little piece of Wyoming as well. Some might see some gusty winds and some hail up in that neck of the woods as well. Let's break it down by the category here for today. Let's look at the tornado risk. Again, running the highest there along the Gulf Coast. You see that brown hue there. That's a 5% risk of seeing some isolated tornadoes. Again, possibility, always common when you get a landfalling tropical system. Hail threat, though, that's going to be up toward Montana. Obviously, when you talk about a tropical system, we don't have any real cold air aloft to support hail, but we do up in Montana. You can see it up there with that, and that's also where the high wind threat's going to be up there as well. Although you still may see some gusty winds with a few of these thunderstorms across the southeast as well. Can't rule that out completely for your day one outlook. Let's look at your day two outlook here as we'll look at that. Again, still looking at that marginal risk for potential severe weather here across the southeast, there across portions of Tennessee, Alabama, and Georgia. And it looks like that system that's pulling out here in the plains starts to weaken a bit. So just general thunderstorm threat with that on your day 2 outlook. And still going to be lingering a tornado threat there just a little bit there across portions of Alabama, Georgia, and Tennessee as well. Just running about 2%, so not a big deal. And of course, that is for your Friday. That's your day 2 outlook. Finally, look at the day 3 outlook, just looking at a general thunderstorm threat here across portions of the country, just kind of lining up there across areas of the high plains. So we're talking about up in here. And then obviously still running across the deep south. And that lingering moisture in the southeast really has me concerned. I'll show you why here in just a little bit as we look at the model data. But some of the rainfall amounts are looking pretty impressive on the European model. And that's because of that, this is the excessive rainfall forecast. Again, this is your day 1 outlook here as we're looking at excessive rainfall, a possibility there across Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, and getting back into Georgia. And as you look at the day 2 outlook, and the day 3 outlook, specifically looking at Georgia. There's Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee. It's your day 2 outlook there. And then the day 3 outlook, still targeting over Georgia. I'm really concerned about areas around metro Atlanta. Could see some excessive flooding if the European model holds true. Again, I know I'm teasing you on that one, but I'm going to show you that in greater detail here in a second as far as some of these rainfall amounts. We're looking pretty impressive. Now, the latest outlook from the global forecast as far as the tropics are concerned just got released yesterday. And we are looking at a few regions, obviously, that we're going to be watching there across the Atlantic. Obviously, we're looking off the eastern seaboard here, a possible development there. And that continues into the latter part of the month as we're starting to wrap up the month of September. Now, what I'm seeing here is 20%. That's not overly aggressive here at all. Although we're kind of right around the peak of the hurricane season. We just passed that. And we still got a lot of season left. But the fact that that's fairly low tells me, I really don't think we're going to get too far down on the name list here for today. The average years of like 13 named storms. We've had 6 so far. Next one's Gordon. We're going to get Gordon here pretty soon. We're halfway through the season. So, I say we might get to Oscar. That's 15 named storms. We'll see if that works out or not. And we'll see how the month of October works out. But I think we're probably going to end up finishing the season with what's known as an average typical season, nowhere near what was forecast. It just shows that we still got a lot of season here to go. We're on the back half of this now that we're past September 10th. But we'll see what happens. We'll see if we continue to see the number of storms. We've only had 6 so far. Let's see how the rest of the season works out. And as of right now, here's your latest tropical outlook here for the Atlantic right now. Watching at 3 areas of disturbed weather out there. One off the coast, if it comes into the Carolinas, it might be a depression. I don't know. We'll see how that forms out. And then we got tropical depression number 7, which of course is expected to become Gordon. It's sitting at 17.3 north and 33.0 west. So 35-mile-per-hour winds. Of course, Francine's inland. We got to worry about Francine. Francine's just going to unfortunately start to stall as it begins to move inland. Let's look at your satellite imagery out here. Again, that still doesn't look very robust out there at all with any of the thunderstorms out there right now. Still looking pretty depleted. Obviously, you got your little swirl out here. This is our depression out here. You got a couple of tropical waves out here in front of it that's showing that 10% chance of risk. And what's coming off the Carolina coast will kind of be a few days away. There's nothing really to kind of show you there on that right now with that system yet to be. So we'll talk about that more in the model data here in just a second. So here's the latest again on Tropical Depression 7. You notice it's not expected to become it's expected to become a Tropical Storm Gordon, but is not expected to become a hurricane yet. I think it'll become one out in the Atlantic, and once it does, it could have a play as far as what the global pattern is going to be looking like. I'll show you that here in just a second here. Again, we're looking at the ECENS Ensemble model, again showing that storm kind of basically staying out in the Atlantic. It's going to turn northward here. I'm expecting it to kind of go like this. And then we got a little something here showing up off the Carolina coast. Maybe we'll see how that works off. But again, the big system, which will become Gordon, will pretty much stay out in the Atlantic, and I'm not expecting it to be a player, although it may kick up some pretty good swells off the East Coast, especially if it becomes a big hurricane. So going over now and taking a look at the more detailed look at the modeling, we're going to first take a look at the tropics. We're looking at the pressure anomaly map out here in the tropics as we're going to say goodbye to Francine, which is going to kind of linger there across the southeast, and then we're going to watch what eventually becomes Gordon. You kind of see it starting to get its act organized out here in the Atlantic. That's what the Hurricane Center is tracking there. But it's going to take it a few days, so as going into this upcoming weekend, it should stay pretty quiet for the most part out there. We also need to watch out what may develop off the eastern seaboard there as well, but I don't think it's going to be too big a deal. But this Gordon impact here, boy, it looks like it's going to really become a big hurricane out here in the middle of the Atlantic here as we head into next Friday. Again, it's going to linger out here a long time. Part of this is just no steering currents out there, pretty weak, and then finally it starts to take off. And once it does, it becomes a pretty big hurricane out here in the middle of the Atlantic, and then becomes kind of extra tropical as it gets into the northern Atlantic. When you see something like that, it happens a lot in the Pacific side. Doesn't happen too often in the Atlantic side because these storms come all over, but when they get out that far in the North Atlantic, that can change the global jet stream pattern. So although that storm may not have a direct impact on the continental United States, going into October it could, because the overall jet stream pattern may change as a result of a big storm like that getting in the North Atlantic. We'll watch it closely here as we wrap up the month of September. But thought that was interesting to kind of show and illustrate that point here for you. Let's go ahead and take a closer look at the continental United States. We're looking at the European model here. The jet stream pattern, we're going to about 500 millibars or so, not really going all the way up, but we're going to take a look at the overall flow across the country, get an idea what these storm systems are going to be doing here. The big thing that you're going to notice is the very active pattern in the west. Now this right here in the southeast, this is the leftovers here of Francine. Here's our storm system that's going to provide some of the active weather there on Thursday throughout areas of the high plains and there across areas of Montana and Wyoming. Now, as we go through this forecast, this pattern is going to basically hold where we're going to keep this frothiness that's going to continue to drop down into the west. And whatever remnants there of Francine just kind of get stuck across the southeast. That's going to linger right into this upcoming weekend. Still looking at that kind of stuck there. You got a nice little jet stream dip down here that's going to bring some much cooler temperatures there, especially into the southwest. Saying goodbye to that heat wave they've been dealing with for a very long time. We're going to say goodbye to those triple-digit temperatures, like in the Phoenix, for example. Finally going to get a break there. And but we're going to stay kind of on the warm side here in the east, okay? So you can clearly see as we go into next week, we've got a dip in the jet stream here. You got kind of ridging here in the west, so you got or here in the east, I should say. So that means you're going to see warmer temperatures here. It's going to stay warm. I can draw that kind of. I can do that real quick. Yeah, there we go. See, I can actually do that. So anyway, so as we go ahead and go through the rest of this model run, that frothiness is kind of reestablishes this stuff one after another. Fairly weak systems that are going to be kicking out. No major storm systems, and every one of these little disturbances that are rolling through the mountains and coming to the high plains, either one of them can set up some individual severe weather events. Nothing too bad, but something to watch each day as we go through the next 10 days there with your upper level pattern across the continental United States. Let's go ahead and take a look at this from the perspective of the precipitation. Again, we're watching that area there across, obviously, the south. The remnants here of Francine. It's going to continue to drop copious amounts of rain across Arkansas, Tennessee, especially over Alabama and Georgia. Here's our disturbance up here across Montana. That'll set up your active weather there on Thursday, and that'll push off toward the east as we go into your Friday. And again, we got this system in the south just going to linger there all weekend long, especially across areas of Georgia. That has me concerned about potential flooding risk there, potentially across areas near Metro Atlanta, for example. And then we got something trying to form there along the coast a little bit and kicking inland, kind of augmenting the rain here across the Carolinas. So that is going into next week and going into Tuesday. Now, backing this up here a little bit and watching what's going on in the west, you got another little disturbance here rotating out of California and moving up into areas of Idaho. So you're going to watch this little disturbance out here that's going to be setting off some rains out there across Idaho and into Montana. There's going to be a series of these that'll be kind of coming on through with these little disturbances coming off the west coast. So that's going to continue to be there as we go into next week. Several disturbances. So that one rides up. You see that one kind of firing up some storms there across northern Montana going into Wednesday. Still looking at wet weather here across the mid-Atlantic. Storms here across there. You got a little bit of weak weather here across Oregon and into Nevada. This is going into Wednesday of next week. So definitely a progressive, kind of an active pattern, especially out in the west. Kind of a stuck pattern with some of that leftover moisture across the southeast thanks to Francine. And again, that pattern looks like it starts to shift a little bit. We got a little bit of thunderstorms here, maybe across areas of Wisconsin and down toward Missouri as we head toward Friday of next week. And it looks like the south finally starts to clear out here just a bit as we go toward the end of next week. And then they got another disturbance coming out of the Rockies. Boom, there's another one coming out here toward the plains as we head into the following Saturday. There's another little disturbance all across the Canadian and American U.S. border there. So it's going to be a challenging forecast next 10 days. Just a lot of little minor disturbances. It's going to make forecasting a little tricky. So let's keep it right here. We'll keep you tuned up on all of these because they're going to change a little bit, folks. It just, especially when you're not dealing with any real big storm systems, just a lot of little ones that'll make the forecasting and the timing a little bit tricky, to say the least. Now, I want to get into the rainfall thing. This is quite significant. Really, a lot of the country is going to see a nice little rainfall. Obviously, we got the heavy rains there across the south. Your eyes can't be helped but be drawn to what you're seeing down here. But you get some nice rains out here as well into areas of Montana and Idaho, among several systems that are going to drop rain here over the next 10 days here on the latest European. So I'll go ahead and take this all the way out here as you can kind of see another round of rain here breaking out in several forms here across repeated areas across the Midwest there, as well as the middle of the country, as well as into the Mountain West. So again, we're talking 3 different areas. You got a nice little clump there, got a nice little clump there, and obviously you got a big area of rain there across the southeast and Georgia. Unfortunately, here on the European model is looking a little bit sinister, to say the least, right now with that look. So let's go in a little bit closer. I do want to show the southeastern portion of the United States. Look at some of these rainfall totals here. I mean, wow, we're talking upwards of if this holds true, could be seeing some significant flooding here across Georgia, anywhere from 8 to 12 inches of rain in and around metro Atlanta going here for the next 10 days. So you got 4 to 5 inches here along the Carolinas, a lot of areas across the southeast looking at 4 to 6 inches of rain. But a big bullseye there across Georgia has me a little concerned. We'll see how that works out. As a lot of time, and when you're dealing with a tropical system, one that's kind of stuck, it really is dependent on where that tropical moisture feed kind of lines up, and you get that training effect. So the flooding concern across the southeast is high, and still looking at some flooding potentials isolated out even in the Intermountain West, Montana and Idaho. There's some pretty significant rains out there as well. So we'll have to watch very, very closely over the next 10 days. So as we're going to take a look now at the temperature profile across the United States here over the next 10 days, one thing we're going to see is definitely warmer weather across a big part of the country, but still staying kind of relatively on the cool side out toward the west. So this kind of gives you the temperature anomalies here as we progress here over the next few days. You see that red, you know you're running temperatures above normal, the blue below normal, and obviously across the southeast, thanks to the cloud cover, that's going to be kept down a little bit. But the middle of the country, definitely seeing things warming up, to say the least there, from Texas all the way up into the Great Plains here. So very warm out here. We're going to cool things down here out in the west significantly so, especially as we go into this upcoming week into early next week, as we'll see a nice little change out there. So watch that little surge there coming in there, going in toward, say, Sunday. Sunday, seeing those cool temperatures out on the west coast. Still below normal across the southeast thanks to all the rain there, and very warm temperatures there on the high plains there going in toward Monday. Look at this, 15, 16 degrees above normal all the way across from Montana going over toward Michigan, with the above normal temperatures expected to continue there. And looks like that's really cool. I mean, look at this. I mean, wow, that is significant. You're looking at temperatures running here some almost 20 degrees below average here for California, Oregon, into areas of Nevada as we go in toward next week. Big significant cool down. Obviously cool here because of clouds and rain, but in between that area, you got a lot of temperatures that are going to be running above average for a lot of the country. And we're going to take this out to the rest of its run here. Again, still staying very cool out in the west, Nevada, Idaho, obviously Utah, kind of a very nice little dividing line here between the cool weather that's out in the west and very warm weather out here in the plains, especially with the current pattern the way it's looking right now. And looks like that'll continue right here, right to the end of this run here for the next 10 days. Cooler in the west, warmer in the east here as we progress. Now let's go ahead and take a look. Next, I want to talk about the temperatures, and we're just going to focus specifically on the high and low temperatures here, kind of going into this upcoming weekend. Okay, so we're looking at the high and low temperatures here beginning here for today. So we'll go ahead and start here. on your Thursday afternoon. Obviously, you're looking at temperatures, very kind of warm here in the plains. You've seen a lot of 80s out here. Cooler in the Intermountain region. Thank God for this. I know they were really baking there last week. It's sitting in the 40s here for afternoon highs up in the mountains. That's very nice. Across Idaho there, 70s across Washington State. Still a little warm for the interior California, sitting in the 90s, but the folks in the southeast, obviously the clouds and rain expected down here, that's basically holding into the 70s and low 80s. Not too bad across the Midwest here, with temperatures holding in the 80s as well. All right, let's go ahead and progress this in. We'll take a look at your high temperatures here for your Friday. Here's your Friday afternoon. We're baking in Texas. Looking at a lot of 90s out here across Amarillo, upper 90s there, 93 over into Dallas. And I want to go to Pacific Northwest. How about 64 degrees out in Seattle? That's pretty good there. Minneapolis looking at 84. So warm here in the middle of the country. Still looking kind of warm there. Still hot across Phoenix, 103. But don't worry, that change is coming, folks. You're all going to get a breakdown there as well. Afternoon highs on Sunday, still holding 102 there in Phoenix. Still kind of hot there across the interior sections of California. The middle of the country looking pretty warm out here as well. 86 there in Nebraska, Kansas, Dodge, Wichita looking at 89 there. 86 over into Columbus, Ohio. So relatively warm in the northeast, but you can definitely see the clouds still holding the temperatures down in the 70s here across a lot of the south going into your Saturday afternoon. Let's look at your Sunday afternoon highs. We'll take this into Sunday, and we're still holding on to barely 100 degrees there in Phoenix, but don't worry, by the time we get to Monday, it's going to be gone. A little bit warm there in the interior. We got temperatures here dropping down to about 80 degrees out into areas of Nevada. Still warm in the high plains, 95, 90 out here in the foothills of Colorado. Still looking at some 90s there. 103 in the Big Bend area. Ouch. 97, 98 there in Dallas. Very, very hot there indeed. Still lingering clouds and effects across the southeast, really keeping those temperatures at bay there. Although still warm here across areas of the Midwest and Wisconsin. How about Milwaukee and Green Bay sitting at 85 degrees, 79 over toward Buffalo. And that is on your Sunday. I'll go one more day here. Let's go into Monday. Why not? Let's go look at Monday here. Yeah, that's when the big change comes, like that. 96. All right, we'll take that. We're finally below triple digits there across Phoenix. The interior parts of California really cool down. You say goodbye to those 90s as temperatures drop into the 70s. The mountains dropping into the 40s there. So definitely could be looking at maybe some mountain snows getting out there potentially. And much cooler here across the Intermountain. Very warm in the middle of the country as we start next week. And kind of a uncertain pattern here across the east, obviously with 70s and 80s because of clouds and lingering cutoff rains there from Francine. How about temperatures as far as lows? Let's go and talk about the lows. Let's talk about that. All right, let's look at your lows here on your Friday morning. The interior sections out here in the west looking very nice, 40s and 50s. Very warm in the middle of the country, seeing 60s going all the way up to the Canadian border there. Relatively cool across the northeast, in the 50s up there. That's not feeling too bad. And in the 60s in the deep south, that's not too bad as well. Let's go ahead and check out the morning lows there on your Saturday. Again, holding it cool across the west. Not bad at all. Look at these 30s out here in the mountains in here. That's why you saw some snow advisories out there in the higher elevations. That's maybe the primary reason. And as we go into Sunday morning, again, not really seeing much changes here. Looks at the weekend. You see the west stays cool. A lot of 40s for morning lows and 50s out here. Even into California, it's still very warm and balmy in the 60s for a lot of the Midwest. 70s across Texas. Of course, they're going to be baking there going into Sunday and remaining mostly in the upper 60s across the Mid-Atlantic and the Southeast. And we'll go one more day. Let's go in toward your Monday. Starting the new work week. Still looking pretty cool out here in the west, although you're seeing some 30s out here in the high mountains across California there. Interior valleys dropping into the 50s, 40s into Montana, 40s into the interior sections of Colorado. Very warm and steamy across Texas into Oklahoma to 70s, even the 70s getting into Kansas. Very warm here across the middle of the country. And relatively not too bad across New England there, sitting into the 50s and staying in the 60s to around 70 degrees for their southeast. So how does this all translate for your climate outlook? We'll wrap things up by taking a look at your climate outlook here. As we were showing here in the models, we're going to cool it down big time here in your 6 to 10 day outlook here from September 17th to 24th. Very warm here in the middle of the country, especially across the Great Lakes. The temperatures running well above normal there. Only staying near normal thanks to the cloud cover a little bit here across the southeast, and that really doesn't change all that much. Still kind of relatively cool in the west. Very warm here across most of the east, especially from the Great Lakes into New England, as that trend looks from the 19th to the 25th of September on your 8 to 14 day outlook. This also doesn't change that much. Again, we're watching that potential tropical influence there, leftover Francine moisture. We get something else to kind of pulling off the Atlantic here across areas of the mid-Atlantic. Will need to be watched closely there. That active weather pattern I was showing you there on the 10-day, this is going to continue here with these little disturbances, keeping it kind of wet up here. Again, watch out for some isolated flooding potential into some of the creeks and river areas in the mountains there as well. So getting run up, and then this will kind of progress into the middle of the country here on the 19th to the 25th. Staying wet here on the East Coast, just can't seem to clear that out. Below normal there across New England, the Gulf Coast, and the Southwest as we get a nice cool down here expected into Arizona, into the Four Corners region as we getting ready to wrap up the month of September. Boy, it's hard to believe we are almost getting to the end of the month. And we're going to stay pretty busy for the most part. Obviously, we still got to watch the tropicals. Still got the second half of the tropical season to watch. Pretty progressive pattern with some weaker systems, a number of them over the next 10 days. They'll be impacting the west and into the plains. And then obviously we got that cutoff moisture across the southeast. We're going to have to watch very closely as the flooding threat will be running high there. Now, if you want to stay up on all the latest changes in the weather field, boy, there's a lot of it going on. The best advice I can give you is, come on, please subscribe to the channel. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Hit that notification bell so you're alerted on future content. And leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you think. If there's something you'd like to see in this product, this is for you guys. Go ahead and leave a comment down below. I'm more than happy to address any questions you may have. All right, that's your update for now. You guys take it easy. Be good, stay safe, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.